EOAs are just very generic. Every user on an EOA on-chain is the same to adapt, and there's no context that goes between the way the user onboards, who they are, what they're looking for, and when they get to adapt, telling the adapt this context and basically give them a personalized experience. And problem two would be that EOAs are natively not programmable. We see EOA as like the starting point, and we want to make it accessible for new entrants, but we also want to make it professional for professionals.
Hey, we'll get right back to the podcast, but first I want to talk to you about today's sponsor, Vertex Protocol. Vertex is a cutting-edge decentralized perp exchange that brings you the best of both worlds. With its lightning-fast order book model, Vertex offers precise price discovery and minimal slippage. Take advantage of cross-margin trading to optimize your capital and trade the most popular assets like Pepe, Doge, WIF, meme coin, eigenlayer, and more, all with leverage. So why wait? Dive into decentralized trading today. Visit vertexprotocol.com to learn more. Trade smarter, trade with Vertex. Phenomenal. We're here back on the Decipher podcast, a new episode with Alessandro from Brahma. Super excited. They have an incredibly ambitious vision for DeFi and solving a lot of the problems that people have been complaining about around DeFi for many years now. So Alessandro, I'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Thank you for having me, Jack. So I'm Alessandro, one of the co-founders of Brahma, and we've been working in DeFi for now over 3 years, and Brahma is just the culmination of this effort. And I take care of all of the, let's say, business and product side together with my two other co-founders, and we're a team of 20 now. So we grew pretty large for a DeFi team, but still fully distributed. And yeah, thanks for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, I want to start off with the thing that's most interesting to me about Brahma are kind of the assumptions you make when building the product. So you guys have some kind of hot new takes around what the future of DeFi and what the future of interacting with crypto looks like. And they tend to be kind of contrarian. So I'd like to run through some of the kind of assumptions you make about the current state of DeFi and how you address them, and why you have chosen to make these kind of design decisions. So the first one is this idea of EOAs and EOAs being inefficient. And EOAs are kind of like I guess I'll let you explain it. What are EOAs? Why are they bad? And what are you guys doing to address that issue?
EOAs aren't bad per se, right? They are the way that we got where we got to in terms of interacting with crypto today. They are self-custodial generally, correct? Mm-hmm. Backed by a private key, which is a big, not flaw, but it's a big issue for when we talk more about expanding the user base of crypto. And there are other approaches of how this could be a bit, alleviated, but it means that somebody else will have to hold your key for you and generate it. So it's not always the best for the ethos of crypto. Irrespectively, they are how we got here. And we have been starting to think early on of how interactions would look like in the future, correct? And the main problem we see is that EOAs are just very generic, like any EOA will, apart from looking the same, correct? You could make Rabbit Desktop is an amazing version of Rabbit, very intuitive to use. But the problem is every user on an EOA on-chain is the same to adapt, correct? They use the EOA as an entry point to do something. And then once they click on a button on adapt, they pass it on to an RPC or basically execute the transaction elsewhere. And there's no context that goes between the way the user onboards, who they are, what they're looking for, and when they get to adapt, telling the adapt this context and basically give them a personalized experience. That's problem one. And problem two would be that EOAs are natively not programmable, correct? So if we look at how you do crypto in case that you come and do a swap, it's already a problem on the EVM to have to sign an approval and then sign a swap versus a SEX. Obviously, that's a small hurdle. But what if you start getting more active and you start allocating a bit of your capital and you would like your capital to maybe perform actions for you over time or maybe adjust itself a little bit? And there's no way to do this really from an EOA. You would have to hand over control to a smart contract, which is how we got to DeFi 1.0 and vaults and all of that, correct? But those pose other risks. So we see EOA as the starting point, and we see crypto accounts as one of the endpoints and the end goals of how you interact with crypto and do stuff on chain. And the primary part goes around programmability, and the secondary part is about personalizing the experience. Correct? We want to make it accessible for new entrants, but we also want to make it professional for professionals. Correct? And if you start injecting context of what people are doing and passing it over to other dApps and kind of collecting a state of what the user wants to perform. Intent is another way. You can then serve them a specific experience, and you can give them an option to be a bit deeper in how they interact with an experience, whether it's lending or other things.
Yeah, so to back up kind of a little bit, an EOA is kind of like the current or slightly kind of past paradigm of interacting with crypto, where like I have my private key, I'm using it in MetaMask, I interact with the chain kind of in a more or less direct way. So I have a question here. Brahma, well, first, how about this? Can you describe Brahma is, what its goals are, and what the product kind of looks like?
So I think our goals and everything has evolved over time, obviously. So we started, by the way, over 2.5 years ago, building. We come from a trading background as a team, the smaller initial team, and then we started building automated execution for this same reason, correct? Crypto and DeFi was getting complicated. You need to kind of handhold the users to do something more efficiently. So we built smart contract vaults to automate the execution. We even made it cross-chain very early on and added some risk management. So this is how Brahma came along. And then this evolved into Brahma and our accounts that are today. And the reason was you want to give the user more control, meaning you want to make it secure and kind of keep the self-custody bit of it. And they should retain the assets and they should be able to delegate things that they want handled for them. So as an example, you are depositing some stables and you want to lend it at the best rates across a few chains. For now, across one chain, let's say. And you only want to let somebody else, an AI agent or a person, a curator, handle these funds for you and kind of perform actions on them, correct? But you want to own the asset directly from your account. This is how we came to how do you make an account programmable while leaving the user, letting them retain their custody, and how we built the initial version of Brahma to automate things and delegate things and make it programmable. And from then it kind of snowballed to, what if everything on chain was programmable directly from your account, which means other builders could build experiences directly in your account for you, correct? No need to connect the dApp, no need to sign 5 transactions. You just get an entry point to delegate and then let it run. And now with AI agents or generally, let's say, autonomous processes that are evolving, it becomes just much more interesting because we don't know how it's going to look like in 2 years. And we didn't know when we started that eventually you could just ask an autonomous agent to maybe rebalance your portfolio or keep it balanced between certain tokens without really depositing your funds elsewhere or like actually giving custody of the funds out.
So if I had to describe it in a sentence, I would say Brahma is the next generation of how we're going to interact with crypto, and a key feature to that is its programmability, which allows it to kind of be capable for whatever future we end up in, whether that's agentic or whether that's people building applications on top of it, or people executing strategies, something like that.
Yes, Brahma is the programmable account, and I think the context from the EOA that we described before, just to close the loop, is an EOA. We said it's a general way to just execute, connect, and click and sign a transaction on chain. Mm-hmm. Then you had kind of, especially in this past cycle, correct, of meme coins and the explosion of speculation in that sense, you had Telegram bots, right? And you saw how Telegram bots, even if they're less, more custodial and unsafe, they still attracted a huge audience because they were specialized for something, which was obviously sniping tokens with low liquidity. And therefore, people started migrating from an EOA model to directly something a bit more custodial, but feeling a bit more like an account, correct? It right. owns the user. It does the execution for them. It kind of handhold them from the discovery, creation of the wallet, discovery, and execution. And then you went into Photon, which is, again, another step in the direction of an account, correct? Again, the execution is all managed. It has the context of what you're trying to do, and it optimizes for the type of user to an extent. Mm-hmm. And then you go into full crypto accounts and smart accounts, such as, there's Brahma, there's Infinex, there's Azura, and everybody's optimizing for a specific use case. For example, Azura is purely trading focused right now, right? Like a terminal with advanced capabilities. And Brahma is the real unlock for us is programmability. Right. Being able to expand this account into many different extensions to perform any action on chain and delegate any action. And really the way it's going to look like for now, it's been us building this small modules extension that people can, I want to automatically swap over time. I want to automatically lend to the best yield. But now we're opening it up to any chain and any builder to supplement on top of it.
Right. So a question here, you mentioned kind of like the utility of Photon, and obviously Photon has had a lot of success, and then other kind of interfaces that, or applications that we use to interact with crypto. If we look at kind of TradFi, we see, some, the highest level of TradFi is interacting with the kind of financial rails on a different platform than the retail user, which is maybe using some kind of like retail broker, TD Ameritrade, something like that. Or I guess that doesn't exist anymore, but that's that's an aside.
Interactive brokers, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. And then, maybe we have a even less kind of sophisticated participant using something like Robinhood. How does Brahma address this spectrum? Is Brahma for every crypto participant? Are you targeting a specific crypto participant?
Good question, actually. We started our journey for purely institutional and professional players. Why? It's because we started building Brahma accounts 2 years ago, approx, and the market was nowhere where it is now in terms of like attention and let's say volume and liquidity on chain. That is thankfully progressing a lot now. So we built for parties that already had liquidity on chain and were performing actions. Just that was the explanation. And when you build for them and you build a stack that starts becoming performant and flexible enough for them, you can then repackage it and really, as we said, give personalized experience based on the context of the user. So we started from like the pros, you could say the interactive broker if we're using the analogy that you used. And then we open up this stack so that other protocols and participants can build extensions to provide it directly to the users, correct? We do distribution. The protocols do distribution through this new app that they built on Brahma accounts. And everybody basically benefits from that. And then we split the product recently in a pro and a normal version. And the normal version is, single signer. You just put an email and with Privy, you get a wallet with your passkey and you basically are your up. And for a pro, you can still add multi-sig. You can create sub-accounts. You can add your team with permissions and you can add transaction policies for control. So that's a progression. We go from a interactive broker, a pro mode or a Coinbase Pro, and we go all the way down to a kind of Robinhood experience eventually. But yeah, maybe we don't even have to build it ourselves. There are teams that are taking the stack of Brahma to then build an experience that directly reaches users without even seeing fully our front end all the time. I can give some examples, but that's one of the paths.
Phenomenal. So I think that actually ties into my next question, which is around this idea of programmability. Obviously, programmability, a bit of a buzzword, but what does it mean? It means that we have kind of a bunch of unlocks around the capability within the interface, right? And one thing you mentioned here is other teams now can build on top of the interface. So talk about some of these teams. What is programmability and how is it an unlock for both users and for these teams that can build on top of Brahma?
Programmability is two-faceted. Let's say for a user, it's simply I come in the account, I deposit some funds, and I get proposed with an opportunity that can evolve over time. For example, we said you deposit some stables and you want them to earn some yield, correct? Or you want to allocate your position to a lending market, or you want to buy some tokens and you want them rebalanced based on some logic over time. Correct? It could be the exposure based on the stables that you have in your account. That can be handled by, as we said, an agent or a curator, correct? And that is programmability. I am able to let my account execute complex multi-step transaction. All it requires is one signature from my side to start. And most importantly, you can program the permission of this account, which you cannot in an EOA, or you can in TradFi, but not in a fully open way. So I can program and say that Jack, as a very experienced, meme coin investor, can handle 10% of my portfolio, and he can only allocate and swap between these chains on this coin, on this like protocols. He can buy whatever meme coin. I trust him as my meme coin portfolio manager. But you cannot do anything else. You cannot withdraw it. You cannot LP with it. Correct? I give you a programmed permission on my account. Correct? Without giving you full access. It's like a delegation, really. It's like a managed account in traditional asset management, where you give somebody the API access to your trading account. And for the protocol, it's a different level of programmability. So I'll give you the example of Creator Bid on Base, which are an amazing team building like AI agents, essentially letting you spin up AI agents with tokens, working similar to virtuals. And they use the stack to allow their agents to execute transactions on chain. Because every agent of CreatorBit has a safe, a smart wallet under the hood, and they use the Brahma stack to allow the agent to take a decision and perform a transaction because of the decision. So I want to buy back my token, I want to LP, I want to buy this other coin, and then they use the Brahma stack to be able to basically execute these actions. And for Swell, it is a mix between programmability between them and the user. They are launching a chain where they're on the chain and they say, hey, to manage rewards as a user, you have to claim them, you have to do these operations, and you have to do it over time, maybe every few days. You can make it an automation that runs through the account in Brahma. So the user has a Brahma account and they say, hey, automatically claim the rewards for me. They sign one and they are delegating to this automation partner that every time they will only be able to call the claim function. So there's no token approval, correct? It's just claiming rewards. And you can think of anything else that can be anything on chain can be done on any chain, as long as there's a way to set the policy and a way that the account can actually execute these things. And that's why you need a crypto account, and you cannot do it on an EOA. You need the functionality. And Brahma built the surrounding execution stack, the one that actually executes the transaction, pays the gas, checks the best RPC, handles the congestion, as well as the logic to delegate, meaning setting a policy, setting some rules on chain and off chain to make them flexible.
Ever since I've come into crypto, we've been talking about this idea of like an on-chain prime brokerage, and prime brokerage being the way that a lot of TradFi participants interact with TradFi rails. Is Brahma a prime brokerage? Is that a fair analog to make, and if not, what is Brahma?
I would say a prime broker, like at the end, has a lot of say into where things go, where things are routed, and how they're handled, correct? While Brahma now has some saying, but generally shouldn't, correct? So Brahma has a meta aggregator built in-house, obviously, for swapping, lending, and other things, correct? So you want to say, I want to go from here to here on whatever chain. We will propose you the routes, but we're not going to take the decision for you, correct?
Right.
We're just making it easy for you to do so. This is today where at the end, we built the integration for who's the swap provider. We had to start from the top liquidity and then based on user demands. Now we're opening it up so that other swap providers can just self-integrate into Brahma, correct? This idea of the stack being open, you build an integration, you have an app that you can directly swap, directly land on whatever chain. You built it yourself as a protocol, and it kind of merges into an app store, if you will, and it's open. And the step after, obviously, is decentralizing this control of things, like what gets listed in Brahma as a, let's say, application or integration, which partners actually get, access to be a swap provider for a core chain. And it's not going to be driven by us eventually down the line.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the kind of competitive space. So I guess on the first level, we have Uniswap or aggregators like Jupiter, CowSwap. And those are the ways that people were traditionally kind of swapping into tokens, which I think is still probably the primary DeFi action people are taking. We also have the centralized exchange space, which most users are on centralized exchanges right now. And then you mentioned a couple of new applications, stuff like Azura, Photon even, which are on-chain experiences that are also more account-focused than EOA-focused. Where does Brahma fit in this competitive space?
So maybe let's separate, I guess, the sexes are a completely different layer for now, correct? They are where many of the users come onto crypto, and it's not a bad thing per se, correct? They're very accessible to everything, the on-ramping, obviously, the usability, and so on. So sexes are like an entry point for a user to then graduate and go on chain. I think we can take away part of it, but we'll never be able to take everything on chain, correct? From the get-go, depending on regulation and many other things. And then there's the on-chain landscape, which is, I don't think wallets own the user as much as account will, because as we said, very generic, very, let's say, you need to use multiple of them to get to different things and get different benefits. Accounts are going to own the user for specific benefits. So an example, if you start trading on Photon or, another meme coin trading app, are you going to switch very easily? I don't know, correct? Maybe when it gets very competitive and fees matter, or maybe the discovery of tokens or the data matters, maybe you will switch more frequently. Right now, I don't see a lot of switching behavior there. And in accounts, it will be the same, correct? If an account gives you a very good home, personalized experience, it's safe, it guides you to whatever type of user you are, you'll stay there. So while maybe, for example, Infinix is focusing a lot on the retail user, right? The potential sex user to instead open an Infinix account from the get-go and use it. We focus on a more graduated user that already is getting on chain for now. And we're very generic, where we don't want to be opinionated from day one on what you're going to do or on which chain. We're trying to approach it in an open way that can be extended easily by other builders. And therefore, there will be competition there, but there's also like a huge market, like on-chain activity, 100x's from here. And like there is in TradFi, many good brokers, prime brokers, or apps for fintech. There will be like few very good crypto accounts. And sexes are not a competition to it, correct? Because sexes have very limited capabilities. Get from token A listed to token B listed on my order book. And DeFi is completely open, programmable with whatever numbers of chain that will be successful. So there's plenty of.
So you talk about the sex experience. What about something like Photon? Does Photon end up building on a platform like Brahma? Are people transferring into Photon? How does, does that experience exist within Brahma, or does it need to be specialized and external?
I think that's also a good question that we can speculate on. But generally speaking, the good thing of a crypto account, and Brahma specifically, it's extensible and programmable, correct? So there is totally a way in which, we actually have some teams building this with we call it the builder kit, which is essentially the Brahma API and SDK to build on. We have some teams that are building some sort of experiences, as I said, third-party front ends to perform specific action in specific form factor using Brahma under the hood, and it's built on Brahma, correct? And all of the execution goes through Brahma. All of the users actually go through Brahma. So yes, you could build a meme coin trading terminal on Brahma if you wanted to, and you have all the stack ready, especially when we abstract the chain even further to just get going. But I think there's merit to having specialized apps for specialized things, correct? So an Azura or Photon terminal, they are so good at discovery of low liquidity tokens and communities. I don't think we will match that level of detail in that specific segment unless we really wanted to, which we don't right now. And therefore, you might have two accounts. The most important thing is that you might have 1-2 accounts that give you access to 80+% of the crypto activity you want to do. And we go away from having 8 wallets with very different experiences, zero personalization, no context between what you did and what you actually want to do, what type of users you are. And that's why I think accounts will be great for this, correct? Like a home that handholds you to where you want to go. Similar to, again, TG bots in a very ugly or clunky way initially did. And then they evolve over time to like richer and richer experiences.
Mm-hmm. You talk a lot about kind of like owning the user, and I think you think that Brahma is uniquely able to own the user. And obviously, it's like this universal thing. L1s are trying to own the user, centralized exchanges are trying to own the user, applications are trying to own the user.
Right.
Your kind of thesis is essentially we want to own the user, and I think that's where there's kind of universal agreement that that's where value is captured, is with this ownership, the sticky ownership of a user. Who's winning that space right now, and why is Brahma uniquely capable of owning the user?
So I think that's exactly the point. The point you made is right? Like the fattest account. Like we call Brahma the fattest account, and there's been the fattest protocol, the fattest app, the fattest whatever. So everybody's trying to own that distribution and own the order flow in the end. So I think like we took Solana meme coins in that example because it's kind of been like the thing that developed faster over the last 6 months. So example of that, correct? Like Photon was making more revenue than the chain itself, correct? Right. Or even, so like that's a great example of like the users wouldn't care which chain they're on as long as they're like they have a really great, in this case, trading and speculation interface over there. And ultimately what's important is that you also own the execution and improve it for the users. So I think what we did well, or at least what we're specialized to do and we spent a lot of time on, was from the beginning, we built the stack to execute across any chain and any type of operation by ourselves. So we started with like integrating existing parties, but very quickly we realized that it wouldn't scale because you can't use a relayer that exists and you pay for it to relay every transaction. And then it's not on the chain you want to go. And now we want to launch on Hyperliquid and Berachain. And if they're not there, how are we going to give this top-notch experience to the user when they click execute, and no matter the gas price, no matter the congestion or just general pricing, we get them the best rates, correct? So we built that from the get-go. Took a lot of time, and if you will, it's a company by itself to just build an execution stack that you can maybe expose to third parties. And that's why one reason why I think we did really good work up to now. And the second part is the content and the richness of the experience, right? We don't know. There's 1,000 chains, correct? There might be 10,000 by the end of next year, and there might be 15 successful chain the year after, correct? The most important thing is that what you build and the way you get the user from onboarding to executing and getting to the opportunity they want is as interchangeable and as extendable as possible. So that's really a big focus of why we say programmable, why we say now we open up the kit for people to build on top of it. It's really because we don't know what's going to win. We take our assumption right now that it doesn't make sense for us, for example, to focus 100% on chain abstraction and forget the rest of the user experience. It's better to give a very deep contextual experience on few good chains to begin with and to enthusiasts and users that use on-chain, and then expand and generalize from there, correct? But as long as you own hold the hand of the user from A to Z, you can help them improve some parts, and then they stick to it, and we see it. People swap on Brahma, they always swap on Brahma. Then they land on Brahma. Then they connect on DApp on Brahma. Then they automate swaps after they swapped a bit. Then they go multi-chain and they deploy to another chain and they start using Base. So that's the experience we want to do, right? Like whatever you want to get to, ideally 80%, we will be able to offer a good experience. And if you want to go crazy meme coin trading, you also set up an Azure account on top. Maybe in the future they talk to each other, maybe not. And you continue. Yeah.
It's an interesting take. Like you guys have decided to compete at the level where you have the most certainty, where the user will exist, right? Like, you know, people talk about chain risk, some DApp that decides to deploy on, you know, Mina protocol or Near or something that has ended up, you know, perhaps not being as successful as other chains. Like there's a risk associated with that. But if you can compete at a different layer of the stack, then there's more certainty that in the future that you'll be able to provide utility to the kind of end user.
Yes, I mean, like today, with less than a year of work, being live, we're bigger than many of the chains you see in practice, right? We have over 200 million TVL in like over 10,000 accounts, and we are on 7 chain, but it doesn't matter if we were on 1 or 10. In the future, the account just hosts a lot of value, correct? And a lot of users. And whenever a new chain wants to plug into this, they can essentially, and the user can access the opportunity directly from the account, if it makes sense.
Right. You touched on a word I want to talk about, or I guess 2 words, order flow. So first of all, how does order flow fit into DeFi? And then the broader question that this fits into is like, how does Brahma end up making money?
So I guess order flow fits into like generally any user has to execute somehow, correct? And the typical way to execute on an EOA, on a MetaMask, is that you have a set RPC endpoint, you have a set provider that will execute for you, correct? And you just click a button and you execute. The better way would be that you use an RPC endpoint that has some sort of like optimization between ways, and most importantly, protects you, correct? If you do a transaction that needs front-running protection, protect me. If I don't need front-running protection, if I'm not swapping, don't protect me and spend more money and more of my time. Just get me through the fastest route. So to do that, you need some sort of optimization. And it could be an external party. It could be at the wallet or account level. We right now are doing it at the account level. Ideally, in the future, really it isn't run by us as well. Like we have providers that are helping us direct this flow. And if you can get a discount for your user and get them a better rate, ideally they would be very happy, correct? So that would be also one opportunity in the future. We kind of internally benchmark how we execute for users vs a single RPC endpoint on your MetaMask wallet that is set there, and we do very well. But how do we basically tell that to the user? How does this evolve when we have 100x the flow? It should get better and better. So that's the way it fits. I think it's experience of user. You don't get massive slippage, you don't get front run, and you get fairly cheap gas. You're gonna be happy, and most importantly, you don't have to pay the gas even. So like it's automatically taken in an account from whatever balance you have, or maybe it's sponsored and then taken into fees in other ways. There's many models. And how does Brahma make money? So we do make money right now only on complex features. So whether you use an automation or you use an integration directly in the app, we will charge like a small volume fee to access it. Still, it will be very, smaller than like the traditional retail facing fees that you see in Telegram bots and other things. And when a protocol integrates our team, they will set their fee. So we have teams that are building automation that users will access or apps that users will access directly in the account. They set their own fee, correct? And they say, for me to curate this experience and maintain it, I will charge you a fixed amount per transaction or whatever. And we will take a cut for basically running the whole stack and the execution for them directly from that fee.
Right. I'd like to pivot a little bit. Obviously, AI over the last kind of 2 months maybe has been, and I mean, really over the last couple of years has been like this super hot buzzword. I think Brahma is uniquely positioned to address that narrative and specifically how users are interacting with AI in the regard that it's relevant to crypto. And I think this comes in two ways. First of all, it's AI agents managing funds. And second of all, it's a take that AI agents will not be the ones that, I'm not going to interact with an LLM necessarily to execute my transactions, right? You know, we kind of have two worlds of agents. One is like, an agent I'm delegating to. The other one is an agent that I'm actually directly using as my interface to crypto. So what's Brahma's opinion on these two kind of types of agents, and how is it positioned to address both of these?
We think generally that there's a lot of potential, but that given the design space of optimization today, it isn't always needed to use something like that. So when I see like, the idea of writing an intent and then an agent building a transaction for me, I don't think this will be as foolproof and kind of expressive to get to the end goal all the time, correct? Apart from a typical swap or a swap intent, which is 80% of what intents are today in crypto. But when the chains are connected and when there's going to be a lot of optimization to perform, and I want to supply collateral from any chain and earn yield at the best rate, and kind of somebody will have to gather the risk between the different instances of Aave or liquidity or whatever, or Morpho vaults, then it will start becoming more relevant, correct? So our approach was, we never built AI features or shield them into Brahma to jump on that bandwagon. We really didn't. Yet we could, because we literally built from 2 years the account to be programmable and delegating it to whatever, as we said, automator or executor. So we are ready to, we're talking to multiple teams that do work on agents that have specialized financial knowledge too, and we're super ready and happy to integrate them or give them an app in Brahma that can showcase this to the users. And we did that with CreatorBit, right? They came to us and said, hey, I have these agents, they think, they talk, they tweet, but now I want them to be involved with their token and actually be able to take decision on how they handle their treasury. How do you do it? And I said, oh, we could do it with Brahma. And actually in 1 week we had the work up, and now agents live are trading daily using the stack, correct? They take a decision, they say, now it's time to buy back, I will do it. So I think the potential is there. I think it will take a bit more time. And for the idea of expressing and letting AI help me, I think we can do a lot of work there. And as I said, simplifying the product. So as an example, we will have multiple apps within Brahma that will get you yield for stablecoin or for different things. Understand who you are as a user in Brahma when you come in, and then let a recommendation, just simply recommendations, stream through and then let you execute this transaction. This is totally possible, correct? If I delegate to an agent from Brahma or an integrator that it can handle my lending positions on 10,000 USDC. I can then express what I would like, right? I don't want this USDC to be anything other than USDC Tether and DAI, and I want to earn yield, but I don't want to, leverage more than X. Ideally, could build the best path in the future, correct? And allocate it between chains. So that's totally doable already today. If we had a good agent, this could be run in Brahma as we speak. So we're very excited to ideally integrate more of this over the next maybe 6 months. Yeah.
So on the base level, you guys kind of take an opinion where it's like people are still going to be interacting, they're going to be clicking, they're going to be making decisions that way. That's the most efficient way. However, for these other types of agents, we'll be able to let them integrate with the platform, and you'll be able to delegate to some agent.
People will have to click once and sign once to delegate. Like it is today when I delegate to the Morpho, we have a Morpho yield optimizer automation. You say how much, you say for how long, and how frequently you want the rebalancing to happen between the best vaults for that token, and you sign once. From then on, the account runs on autopilot. And this is how the creator bids agent are able to trade as long as they have approval from their creator, correct? 100 ETH. You can trade up to 100 ETH and only swap. So the user will have to take one decision, which is important. We want the user to always own the funds, as we said, and delegate a specific part of the account. We never want them to say, hey, 100% of my funds, approve all and let agents run wild. No, we want them to say, I want 10% on a savings plan for yield supply. I want 10% to a meme coin portfolio, and I want 10% farming on Barachain and trying protocols with some level of hand-holding. So they will take the decision. But the optimization and the content of the future actions, it's all automated by humans or not.
Mm-hmm. Imagine someone's listening to this podcast. They're a DeFi user. They're trading meme coins on Jupiter, Photon. They have a MetaMask installed. They say, you know what? I'm kind of more or less happy with my DeFi experience. Sure, there's, I don't like that I have to sign 2 transactions. I don't like that my Jupiter transaction fails. But, more or less I'm happy. What would you say to that user to say, no, Brahma is worth your time, and we think that you should come kind of like check out the product?
I think it depends, because as I said, like we didn't specialize from the get-go for a specific user or use case, right? So I can't say, hey, you will have the craziest, best swap experience on this chain or for this meme coins. But we give you for like 50% all the basic actions you're gonna do, right? As an on-chain user, we give you one of the best and definitely the most secure experience, correct? If the persona you mentioned is somebody who uses a ledger, for example, we will let you multi-sig with 2 wallets, but instead not having to pull out your ledger every day for your transactions. Or maybe you want to split it into 2 different risk profiles. That's for an advanced user. For a simple user that wants to come in, swap, earn some yield and lend, try a new chain, everything you do is securely, like all the core action, you swap, you lend, you bridge to a new chain, directly all in Brahma, correct? No pasting the address, no like figuring out the right route, no connecting to 2 aggregators. All it's done directly in the UI. And we want to guide you when a new chain that is exciting comes up. Right now on the EVM land, so the next are, Swell is launching now, Barachain, Hype, and Monad and Mega ETH, that would be some of the progression. And then non-EVM, and ideally we'll let you manage the general part of your portfolio. And then the rest of the exciting part to pitch you as an individual user will come over the next 6 months, because we just opened up the integration kit where on Barachain, there are these protocols integrating and building an app for, cool speculation on something or handling your rewards automatically. And that's something that, if you use Barachain and you want to earn the best BGTs that you can and manage them, and you can do it in 1 click and then let it run, that's a pitch that I could pitch to anybody coming to Barachain, correct? It's just not live today. It will be next month. So it depends on who you are, basically.
Yeah, so not only kind of UX improvements, but also like actual meaningful financial improvements potentially as well.
And huge security improvement, but that is never how you pitch to a user, because it comes, for some users, it comes as a afterthought, but we have many users that come from Safe, from multi-sigs, or from Fireblocks, or like bigger, secure ways. And the reduction of complexity or the speed improvement of Brahma, it's huge. But if you're only trading meme coin with an EOA on Phantom, on Solana, I can't pitch to you today, and I shouldn't, correct? But when you come and check out Berachain, you will come in for something, and then next chain, I guarantee you will stay at least for a part of your activity, and over time, that will become a bigger percentage. And that's what we see, at least from the limited data we have now, right?
Right. Aside from just kind of like increasing the velocity of integrations and people building on top and adding chains, how does Brahma grow over the next year, 2 years, 5 years?
I think, honestly, what you described is already like 50 to 60% of the process. I think so right now we're doing this, it's multi-chain, it's cross-chain, you're able to like manage different chains, correct? Eventually, you remove completely the barrier of the chains. And then honestly, when you come on chain, it depends on your, as we said, on your intent or your goal, but you're either looking for really good yield or passive, semi-passive yield on your holdings. If we really get good stablecoin regulation and good on-ramping and, a lot of the blocks are removed, people will come to just hold funds on chain as their liquid savings account. And then they will have a credit card like Oli held or whatever, debit card to spend. And then they will buy some coins. That experience will be amazing. So we want to optimize it for this type of user as well, correct? If everything goes in that direction. As I said, the stack is ready, it's battle tested, it's scaling well with the pros. So that's a big part of our work at Brahma. And if we're able to meaningfully scale the integrations, whenever we launch a new chain, like by the time something like Mega if something super exciting comes up, which is maybe a few months away, we have already the whole setup to say, we already have protocols coming to us, please integrate me, because we have TVL, some really exciting user base. They can integrate very quickly in us without any extra smart contracts or cost generally. So if that flows in well and we keep getting good distribution and good growth, what we have to do is just make the app a breeze to use and make it completely chain abstracted. So wherever you come in from, you can access whatever other mini app and opportunity that has been built on Brahma. And that's it. I think that's the main goal. And then open this all up for others to manage and not only us, correct? Both the stack and the decisions.
Excellent. As a founder, what kind of drives you and what is like the ultimate goal with Brahma, the ultimate vision? In 10 years, where does this platform take us?
I think generally, really we spent 3 years of our time as a team playing the very long game and focusing on something that we think adds value to crypto and on-chain. And I respect every team that does that. So generally, crypto is great. It's composable, but it's super hard to use. And the access and the execution part of it, it's not intuitive and it's not going to get more intuitive, correct? The more primitive, the more standards are not helping in that part. And there's more chains, correct? As we said, maybe there's 10 in 10 years that are there or 2, or maybe there's 50,000 chains and we have no idea. So you have to build for both worlds, correct? So I think the vision is really to make crypto fully programmable and let anybody with an internet connection come on chain and get access to one opportunity they want and try it out without feeling like they're gonna run away, correct? That's step one. And I think that's super important. And ideally you coordinate a crazy amount of value or percentage of value across all the chains because you're helping orchestrate liquidity, correct? So as I said, you make it better for protocols to find users and kind of propose to them a very easy flow to interact with their app and maybe their app plus 5 other apps without having all the crazy shenanigans. And you make it easy for the user to come in and find something for them. Right now, if I sign up on a wallet, generally, I have no idea what I should do based on who I am. And if I do more things on it, I also wouldn't know. Nobody's telling me, hey, this is a good opportunity. This is a good chain for you. And it's hard to curate that content, but it's really doable if you build a good approach to it.
Right. Yeah, very like the Spotify of crypto or something like that. Once I control the interface, I control the information too.
Yeah, I think Jupiter did that incredibly well on Solana, right? Jupiter started as an aggregator and now it's seen as the entry point or the pillar of Solana for doing many things. Mm-hmm. And honestly, we should be that, but for any chain. And if we don't believe in a chain and we don't have the time to spend there, somebody else could extend to that chain eventually without us even being there, correct? And if builders on that chain build, there's already, let's say, soon 1 billion of TVL on Brahma that is running around chains. And if you build something meaningful that people want to see and has good yield or good risk, they will just flow there because it's going to be a few clicks for them, and they will just try your app. That should be one of the ways. Then there is all of the security concerns and how you expose this to the users, correct? Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, a phenomenally ambitious goal. Congratulations on all the progress you guys have made so far. For anyone kind of listening to the podcast, curious about Brahma, wanting to check out the product, where would you direct them?
I think Brahma.fi, right? It's like this, .fi. And then we're on Twitter as well. And, if you jump on our Discord, we have really good customer support, which is us usually as interns. And really, we're quick, right? So, we're there, happy to always get ideas. We have a ton of our users asking us, hey, add this, add that, go to this chain, do that. And we just try and take everything into context, yeah.
Excellent. Alessandro, thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much
for speaking to us.
Thank you, Jack.